Hi. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We are here back at Nest Zero in Half Moon Bay, our testing facility in Northern California. And we are joined with Connor Wilkinson, our head of community engagement and customer support. So Connor, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey at Zipline?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the last several years at Zipline leading our operations in Utah. A little about my background professionally. I've worked in the tech industry with Apple and other companies for 5+ years. And on the education side, I have a master's in unmanned systems, so drones, much like what you're seeing here today, as well as I'm a commercial pilot's license. So I found this perfect marriage between technology and aviation right here with Zipline, and very passionate about our mission. And what we do here is just amazing. So.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about kind of your career at Zipline. You've been here for a few years now, right?
That's correct. So I actually started originally as a controller. So that's a remote pilot in command where I would oversee missions that were happening in Utah, delivering medical products. I eventually became a lead overseeing operations, community engagement, and customer. And now I've stepped into this role where I'm overseeing that rollout of customer support and community engagement for Platform 2, specifically with that rollout in Dallas coming up.
And what does community engagement mean?
That's a great question. So as you've seen, our technology is really, really fantastic, and we have hundreds and over 1,000 people that are working to make this new reality happen. And community engagement means that we're going out into the community, we're talking about the great people, the great technology behind the robots, and making sure that they we're very upfront with when we're launching and what that experience looks like. We believe that the first time somebody hears about us shouldn't be when that construction starts or when they first see our zips flying in their community. They should have that opportunity to ask questions as well as just get information from us.
So, I mean, how do you go about engaging the community? Where do you start?
That's a great question. So I actually traded in my snow boots for some cowboy boots recently, moved out to the Dallas area, and that's kind of where we're starting, right, is on the ground, interacting with folks at community events. So we go out, we have some tabling, we let people hold a droid. So if you're in the Dallas area, please follow us on some of Instagram and different items. We'll be in Bedford coming up, and we're very excited to be in front of the community, showing them the technology. And there's also a lot of work that we do with education, so library systems in schools, inspiring young minds about STEM careers. I think back to a customer in Arkansas where in first grade she got to see Zipline deliveries, and we hear from her parents that now she's in third and fourth grade that she's still very, very excited about the very first time that she saw a zip delivery. A lot of that comes down to our community engagement work.
That's awesome. Is there a more recent community engagement experience that was really memorable for you?
Great question. So I was in Mesquite, Texas, just here on Saturday, and it was so exciting to see the kids who would walk up and say, "Hey, is this from the Mark Rober video?" Or "I recognize the droid," and we're giving out candy from the droid, right? That was our candy bowl, and that was really fun. And then as I was interacting with folks, it reminded me at a community event that we had in Utah not long ago, where there was a young family and this girl that was 8, 9 years old was very, very excited about Zipline. She had seen the Mark Rober video. However, they weren't currently eligible for deliveries. So the parents reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we want to find out, how can we do something for her birthday?" So we set up a birthday party at a park, and she invited all of her friends, and we did just back-to-back deliveries of everything from Mr. Beast Burger, Cheesecake Factory, and watching the videos and the pure excitement and some Zipline swag, of course, that was handed out was really, really exciting to see the passion and how we're changing the world and inspiring minds from the community side of things.
That's so awesome. How do you explain Zipline to the community?
That's a great question. So a lot of what we do is talking about the stories and the impact that we've had in Africa, in Utah, in Arkansas. And then when we're talking specifically about the systems, a lot of folks have heard about drone delivery, whether that's from TV, movies, the Jetsons, whatever it is. And so we really first want to understand what is the base understanding, and then we can talk about the system and a lot of the benefits. You being 10 times as fast, 0 emissions, and I know all my folks out in Dallas are really passionate about the traffic. And so we talked a lot about how fast we can get items to you, and taking some cars off the road.
Who doesn't want less traffic and faster, more convenient delivery?
Exactly.
How does Platform 2 work?
Great question. So Platform 2, as many of y'all are probably aware or have seen, it's a bit different than, our existing Platform 1 system, which used a parachute, and quite different than other operators that you may have seen. So the main aircraft, or the Zip, stays really high up in the sky. I think I'm going to go back a little bit on the loading side. So when an order comes in, which you'll hear a bit more about today, that can come in via our app or via, your favorite retailer's app. That order is processed. A aircraft is already at the shipper site. So already at the Walmart, for example. And then it lowers this like super cute, friendly droid that goes down. And the associate or the person working at the restaurant is able to put your order in. That droid goes back into the Zip and runs through several hundred pre-flight checks to ensure that the aircraft is safe and ready to take off. Then it flies directly to your house, and the main aircraft stays really up high, about 30 stories in the air, which when I tell people that, it is like, it gets a lot of questions about how do you do that and like still get the delivery in my yard. And that's where the droid comes into play. And when we're thinking about, the Zip way, way, way up high, we're able to like factor in like winds and things by orienting the droid into the wind, pushing against it, and then coming down and using some sensors, we're able to avoid, kids, people, pets, branches, things that may have like changed in your environment, and then gently lower the droid onto the ground, open the doors on the bottom, the package is left, and then the droid goes back. It is like pure magic. I tell people it's one thing to see it on these lives or like see videos or renderings of it. You see it in person and it like is mind-blowing. It is truly like game-changing, and that's why I'm so excited about what we're doing and so excited to talk to community members about Platform 2.
Yeah, it is very mind-blowing when you see it in person.
Yes.
I definitely agree with that. I guess maybe one or two last questions for you, which is, why do you work here at Zipline?
That's a great question. So I actually first started like my interest in Zipline somewhere around like 2017, where I started seeing YouTube videos and news stories of Zipline's work in Africa. And it first just caught my attention to think like, wow, like small airplanes, delivering these products. And, I came from the aviation industry, as I was talking about, I was a private pilot at the time, and just thinking, wow, somebody's already automating these airplanes and like a very life-saving mission. Followed along and started seeing the number of lives saved and the impact just start to like really rack up. Very, very impactful mission. And think about the world that Zipline's building. And as we've introduced new technologies and expanded our operations, I'm like such a true believer that we're changing the world.
Sorry not to interrupt, but there's a few droids.
I know, look at these droids. And like this is when we talk about the scale of like what we're able to do and why that matters. I think about one of the patients that I've talked to in Utah, where he used to wait hours for his prescription goods to be delivered, and he'd have to leave work and wait. Now he gets a 15-minute delivery window. So he shows up, eats lunch at home, gets his product, puts it in the fridge, and goes back to work. Now I think if, 100,000 people could experience that, if 1 million people could experience that, if, billions of people could experience that, the fundamental change in society is so impactful. And I'm a true believer in what we're doing. And that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Connor.
Of course.
How can people get in touch with you to learn more about what we're doing in Dallas?
Great question. So we do have a new website, or a new page on our website, rather. So flyzipline.com/Dallas. Texas. So sorry. /Texas. Check that out there, or you can email us at dfw@flyzipline.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Alex Busker. Alex, do you mind just coming to join our chat here?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Hello, folks.
So, Alex, thanks so much for hanging out with us today here at Nest Zero. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do as our head of global customer integration?
Yeah. So at Zipline, I lead what's called customer integration, and essentially that is working with partners to understand like where Zipline can integrate into their existing operations, into their systems, and provide like the best experience for them and their employees, and then their customers and their patients that are ultimately receiving product on their behalf.
Awesome. You've been at Zipline for almost 5 years now. Can you tell us a little bit about why you joined?
Yeah, so 5 years. Feels like a lot longer than that. It's been a crazy fun ride. So I remember it was very early, almost 5 years. It was very early pandemic days, and I had someone from Zipline reach out to me, and I just remember as soon as I went onto YouTube and I saw what Zipline was already doing in Africa at that point, I was like, I have to be a part of this. So I grew up in rural West Virginia, and there's like a lot of communities that to go and get like milk, you have to drive 30-35 minutes to the closest store. also when I was 9, my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so while now she also lives in North Carolina where I'm at, no longer in West Virginia, she still has to drive an hour to get her specialty pharmaceuticals. And so when I was watching these videos of Zipline and seeing like what this technology could do, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just felt, it felt so personal to me. It felt like so, like this is something that the members of the community where I grew up, this is something that my mom like could so use in their life, and it can just increase access for so many people here in the US.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Really meaningful story. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done over the last almost 5 years here?
Yeah, so like I said, I live in North Carolina, and so that's where our first Platform One location was. And so I joined there as our first customer success person here in the US to kind of figure out how do we start integrating Platform One into health system operations here in the US. So did that for a bit, and then eventually moved into a global operations role, which was really focused on just expanding our Platform One distribution center footprint like internationally. So lots of great memories there. I think we were able to launch 5 different locations across 4 different countries, like in the year and a half I was working in that role. So it was pretty wild times, but like very rewarding work for sure. And then this year is when I really shifted my focus back to the US, and then like I said, working in that customer integration role and with our partners to get P2 out into the world.
Sounds like you've had quite the journey here. What have been some of the most impactful and meaningful projects you've gotten to work on?
Yeah, so like there are 2 that really come to mind. One relevant to the Nest launch thing I was just talking about. We launched in Kenya, and there were a lot of challenges. You know, when you're entering a new country, you're entering a new market, like kind of what Connor was speaking to, there's a lot of engagement that you need to do. So we had a lot of challenges. It took several months, and then finally we launched. And then I got a message when I woke up that our first delivery was actually a rabies vaccine that went out to save a little girl who had been bitten by a dog. And I literally just cried. I was like, oh my gosh, like 9 months of work. That was like all the challenges, all of the roadblocks. We did it. And now this little girl was able to get a vaccine delivered right to her. And then the other one, my favorite program I've been able to work on is the Elton John AIDS Foundation program in Kenya, which is primarily focused on providing education and access to young youths and young adults around HIV. So like increasing the number of youths that understand their status, and also getting them preventative care and medication like when it's needed. And so I was able to attend one of our events. I got to plant trees at this school in Kenya. I was able to like even jump on the football pitch with the youths, and they definitely ran circles around me, but it was really cool to be there and like see the substance of like what we're doing and like how we're changing and shaping communities and lives. So those are 2 of my favorite memories.
That's so awesome. What a good memory. 9 months of work to launch one site sounds like a lot. I know that we've taken, that was a long time ago, and we've obviously gotten better about that since, and reducing the time it takes to get up and running. Can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day job entails and what your focus is now for the U.S.?
Yeah, so day to day, it's really meeting with all of our partners. So doing a lot of site visits. We spend a lot of time like learning their roles. So like following the clinicians, following the lab technicians, following the employees making the pizzas and the sandwiches. Like we want to learn everything that is important to them and like what they value in their operational processes. And so then we'll take that back and we'll actually develop a workflow for them, and we'll talk about like how our systems are going to integrate technically and operationally together. And then we'll go through some rounds of back and forth with the partner to like come up with, this is the concept of the operation. This is how Zipline is going to integrate into their existing, what they have already existing, and this is how it's going to optimize for them. And that whole process can take anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks, just depending on like availability by the partners.
That's awesome. What do we, what are you focused on having us deliver? Is it medical supplies, food, items?
So my team overall, we work with every type of partner. So we work with all 3 of our main verticals. We work with retail partners, we work with food and restaurant, and we also work with healthcare. Personally, like a lot of my role is working with our healthcare partners.
Cool. What are we delivering, or what will we be delivering with Platform 2 on the healthcare side?
Yeah, so this is where I start to nerd out. I'm really excited. Like I said, it was my passion for joining. but like what will we deliver for P2? So what we're talking with our partners about now is prescription delivery to home, increasing that access, like we said. Also talking about doing lab sample delivery. So things like the emergency department being able to send out samples immediately and faster to a processing lab to get diagnoses faster and ultimately like free up beds faster and like make a better patient experience. Some of the other really cool things that we've been talking about are 3D printed dentures, 3D printed, implants and things, getting those out when it's needed. And then one of the ones I'm most excited about is looking at compounded infusion medications. Health systems, when they compound a medication, when someone goes in for an infusion treatment like chemo for cancer, they have to do that within 2 hours of when the patient arrives. And so if a patient no-shows and they've already compounded and sent that medication over, that whole medication is lost. So it's pretty much bad for everyone. But with Zipline, you can start to look at having the patient check in, and then 10 minutes after they check in, before they're even like set up in their chair, we have that medication sent over, reducing that really unnecessary waste. So it's a really cool one.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So you must spend a lot of time with our partners at their operations, kind of observing them in their day-to-day work. Is that how you basically get up and running?
Yeah, that's where we start. So it's like always starting with discovery. We don't assume that we know anything. Like our mindset at Zipline has always been and continues to be like we are building what the partner and what our customers need. We're not making assumptions on what they need. So that discovery work is really crucial for that. And our partners have been so awesome. They've like welcomed us with open arms. Like they've listened to us ask, probably a million stupid questions and like been very like gracious about like answering our stupid questions and then giving us a lot of feedback. So like we've definitely iterated a ton already, just getting feedback from our early partners.
That's awesome. I know you're here today and you organized a big kind of big practice day for the operations team. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, so this is what we're doing there's folks pretty much scattered all over the test site, which is great. That means they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But essentially we are simulating operations. So like a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what people think we test, and we certainly are, is the aircraft and the droid and the hardware and all of that. That's like 10% of what it takes to make an entire Zipline operation. There's so many other pieces to this, and so we use days like today, we call them ops simulations, to essentially do end-to-end run-throughs and looking at every part of the detail. What is the interaction between someone making a burger, putting it in the package, and then going and loading it into the droid? Like, we're looking at all of the pieces of our software in great detail and like constantly thinking about how do we, based on what we're seeing and based on feedback that we've gotten from our partners, how are we optimizing like everything we can? And so that's what these days are for. So we have some folks are playing like fulfillment roles, some folks are playing customer support. We basically simulate every job that is in the partner operation, and someone plays it here at Zipline. I think it provides a lot of context and a lot of appreciation for Zipliners to like play those roles, and they can be empathetic to like the partner's operations, and it allows us to really dig into the details and optimize.
Should we go check it out?
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my water. Phone. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you show us around?
Yeah, okay, so we're obviously at Nest Zero. This is our test site. I think if you've been on a live before, you've probably seen it. What we have out here is like our flight shack. So we have our flight controllers that are running like the test operations for the Zip. But then we also have, I don't know if you can see it, some smaller bunkers over there. Those are folks that are like representing like partner operations. So they're going to be doing loading and things like that. We actually can go see one of them over here. I think we got some folks hanging out.
It's so interesting. I think when people think that we're testing our system, it's more than just aircraft testing and aviation testing, right?
Yes.
What you're doing is testing the system. It's just in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all the other components that come with it. So, got some folks hanging out over here that we can come see what they're up to. Right. So over here, what we're doing is, like I said, this is like fulfillment operations. We keep it separate from where the customers and everyone sits, because that's how it is in real life. Like, a customer is not sitting next to someone who's doing the loading at the partner site. They're waiting on their delivery. So we intentionally keep all of these different roles separate. And so we've had some orders come through, and we look at everything like here on this is our portal app. It's our loading app. Yeah, and so we have a combination of ops and engineering. That's like really important for these simulations. So we have like ops folks playing the roles. Matt here is an engineer on the customer platform team who helps develop these pieces of software. He's getting experience doing the job, and he's getting real-time feedback from operations like right next to him. And so it just helps us continue to like iterate in real time. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. One question that we've gotten through going live on X was, what kind of businesses are we working with in Texas, and when will we be able to get some things delivered via platform too?
Yeah. So business we're working with Walmart in Texas. Yep. And then we have several food partners that we're working with as well. So think like, you can get everything from sweets to burgers to fries, and hopefully even pizza soon thereafter. And then we also will be launching with a large health system in the Dallas area as well. And our initial focus with that health system is going to be that lab delivery use case that we were just talking about. And then hopefully quickly expanding to getting your prescription delivered to your home in the greater Dallas area.
Cool. Awesome. Sorry. Those were all the immediate questions. Do you want to take us over there?
Yeah, let's head this way. Thanks, guys. All right, so we have kind of like the flight operation. We have the fulfillment partner operation. Up here, you're going to see a lot more engineers hanging out, and essentially the customers.
Thank you. Can you escalate it once you've made it? I'll escalate the cloud on call. Thank you.
All right.
23 relinquished.
Okay. So up here, this is kind of like the hub. This is, like I said, we've got like for every single part of our system, we have an ops person and we have an engineer. And so they are all clearly sitting side by side, and that we have noticed since we've started doing these, this is our third one, we have been able to iterate so quickly and get such deeper understanding of our tools, our systems, why they're built the way they're built, what changes we want to make by like putting these type of people together and making them spend a whole day together under this tent, essentially. I give them pizza and donuts, but yeah, they are forced to sit here and like work together. And then over here, we have Maddie. She's leading this portion of our ops sim, so like kind of an operational leader. We have customer support set up right there. So if anything goes wrong out there, we're not talking on radios to each other. They are calling Zipline support line. They are submitting a support request like through the application. So like, again, we're just like simulating like what will it be in real life for a customer, and not radioing each other when there's a problem. So
cool. Yeah. I think that's all we have time for today.
Cool.
Thanks so much for your time. I know it's a busy day. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.